How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to an episode here on Let's Build Twitter. As always, I'm Ethan, an unknown coder, your favorite underqualified senior software engineer. And as always, if you guys want access to a private repository, there's a link in the description down below that'll walk you through exactly how to get there. So with that being said, let's go and hop into what we're working on today. So today I did want to go ahead and work on getting our messages being able to be reacted to, but in between episodes, I found a massive bug inside of our message reaction logic. So we're going to go ahead and hop into the backend and work on that first. And then once we get our message reactions actually working properly, we'll go ahead and hop back onto the front end here and just get us that whenever we go ahead and click on an emoji, it hopefully goes ahead and sends a reaction. Fingers crossed it doesn't take too long, but there is quite a bit of refactoring in the backend to do. So with that being said, let's go ahead and hop into code and get to work here. Today we're going to go ahead and start out inside of our message reactions. So what we need to go ahead and do is we need to get rid of the message in here. So the issue that we've been running into is that whenever we did one-to-many, man-to-one, for whatever reason, whenever you pull back the message is not grabbing the reactions. I basically tried every single thing I could think of to try, every Stack Overflow post, nothing worked. So instead we're going to take the message out of here, just create reactions, and then we're going to go ahead and use a many-to-many inside of the message itself to fix this. I'm going to go ahead and delete this message from in here. And we're going to have some refactoring to do. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of this .message out of here. We'll also go ahead and get rid of message out of this constructor. And then we can go ahead and delete the ones for message in here. So let's go ahead and delete these guys. Then we'll just go ahead and recreate our toString hash code and equals because they don't have message in them anymore. So let me go ahead and clean this up. Let's go ahead and do our toString really quick. We'll add everything. There's just 3 of them now. Same thing here. We'll go ahead and generate hash code and equals. We'll put all of them in, and that's good to go. So this is going to simplify this guy a little bit. And now we need to go through into our message model and change some things up as well. Luckily, all we have to really do there is just set it so that it's many-to-many instead of one-to-many, so we don't have to change any of the actual other properties. So let's hop into our message. Now inside of message, let's come down to where we have our one-to-many or many-to-one. I don't remember which way it was. Yeah, our one-to-many. And we're going to go ahead and change this to a many-to-many. Let's go ahead and get rid of this stuff here. And let's go ahead and make this a many. So many-to-many. Like so, and then we're gonna need our @join table like so, and inside of our join table we're gonna have a name equal to message_reactions_junction. Now I had some weird issues with this. I don't know if the name has to be this or I was breaking something else, but it wasn't working very well before, but it's working now. So join column, so it can be @join column, and then in here it's gonna have a name equal to reaction_ID, and then finally we're gonna have inverse join columns, and I forgot my comma, so I'm gonna go ahead and add that in there, otherwise it's not gonna show up. @join column, and then here I'll have name equal to message_ID. So we don't have to change anything majorly in here. Everything else is good to go. It's mad because we need to fix a couple other things. That's fine, but we don't need to recreate our reactions or anything like that. Next, we have a typo inside of our message detail that was breaking some things as well. So let's hop into there. So inside of our message detail, this should not be message reactions. This should just be reactions. So let's go ahead and change this just to straight up reactions, which means we're going to have a couple of issues here. So inside of our message DTL, we should have had reactions, but maybe I forgot to actually set this. Let's just make sure we say this .reactions is equal to message.getReactions. So that would have been an issue. And then down here, there should be another issue. And was I not setting something else as well? No, okay, we are setting reactions now. I don't know why it's saying it's not being used, but it is what it is, probably because we're just passing a message here. That's fine. And then down here, we need to go ahead and change these to, instead of message reactions, this is just going to be get reactions. Go ahead and return reactions. Same thing here. We'll change this for message reactions. This one could probably say it's message reactions, doesn't matter. But here we need to make sure that this just says, reactions. Reactions is equal to reactions, like so. And then we just need to go ahead and fix this guy up. So here we'll go ahead and say that all reactions are equal to reactions. So this one was causing an issue on the front end, not being able to find the message reactions whenever we did pull them back because it wasn't the same name. Something else I did, one last thing, I don't think we need it. We're going to go back into the message model and add in another all args just to be safe. I don't know if it did actually end up doing anything. Let's hop into the message model, do that, and then we should be good to go here. So here, let's go ahead and come down here to where we have our last message. Go ahead and space CA to generate a constructor. We'll go ahead and skip the integer because we never really need that, but we're going to go ahead and add everything else in here. So it should go to 11 like so, and this is just to be safe. I don't think we ever need this, but it's for an insurance policy for JSON. So now we can go ahead and continue working here. Now let's hop into our message controller and just temporarily basically disable it and make it return null. That way some of the other errors go away. So let's come down to where we have our React. So again, I'm just going to go ahead and disable this guy for the time being, and then just set a return to null. That way it's not going to complain about the React message being wrong because we're about to change it. So go ahead and do that. And if we want to, we could also go ahead and preemptively change this to message DTO. We're going to need that as well. Okay, so now we can start working on some of these cascading changes. So next, let's go into our message React DTO. We're going to change the message to message ID. So here, we're going to go ahead and instead of this being a message, we're going to go ahead and make it an integer. And this is just because we weren't able to really send the message anyways. So it's going to make it a little bit easier on ourselves. We can go through here and clean these up. So this will be an integer now. So integer, and then message ID, and then same thing here. This will be message ID is equal to message ID, and we just have one more or a couple more here, and I'll have integer get message ID, and then this will be message ID, and this one will be integer as well. We could have kept it named message. It is what it is, but I have to make sure I actually label it exactly what it is. So this will be message ID, and let's go ahead and say message ID. And then finally, we'll go ahead and pass back the message ID into string. So this one is about good to go. And there we go. Cool. So that fixes that guy. And that's going to make it a little bit easier for us in a little bit whenever we're finishing up some other stuff. Yes, I know we have errors because we changed stuff. That's fine. So now let's go ahead and go into our message service and just kind of clear everything out of there. So if we come into our message service, let's come down to where our message reaction stuff is. And we're going to go ahead and just kind of clean it out. So let's see here. So react to message. Unfortunately, we're just going to go ahead and delete all of this. And I think we're still going to return a message. So we're going to keep that as is, but we'll go ahead and return null for the time being. And really, we're not going to take in a message ID anymore. We're going to take in an integer. So go ahead and pass an integer message ID like so, and that should be good. A few more things we need to clean up here. We're going to go ahead and delete this message service off the top here, or not message service, a message reaction service. We're no longer going to have a message reaction service, so we're going to go ahead and get rid of that. We're going to get rid of this, and we need to get rid of it out of here. That would have been something that would have broke. So let's go ahead and scroll over and delete this out of here. Let's go ahead and get rid of our message reaction service. We'll fix it in a little bit. That's good. And then let's go ahead and delete that service. Let's go ahead and open up our Explorer, and let's go ahead and find the message reaction service, this guy, and we're going to go ahead and delete it. Yes. Okay, that's fine. And then we need to go into our message reaction repository, which should be this one. We're going to go ahead and get rid of this function as well, or method. We do not need this method. And then now, all we need to go ahead and do is go back into the message service and actually get to work. So let's hop into the message service. And what we're going to have to go ahead and do is we need to bring in the message repository, or the message reaction repository. So private, final message reaction repository, message reaction, repository. I'm just going to go ahead and bring it in here because really we're doing everything to do with messages in here. So it's fine. We're going to have our message reaction repository, message reaction repository, and we're going to go ahead and say this dot message reaction repository is equal to message reaction repository. So that's good. Now we can go ahead and access our message reactions. Now we can come back down and work on our react to message. So this is going to be somewhat similar to what we had before, but we're going to go ahead and change it ever so slightly. Let me go ahead and fix that because that was kind of ugly. We're going to go ahead and get our message again. Message is equal to message repository. And then we're going to go ahead and get by ID. And this is going to go ahead and say message ID. We probably should have done find by ID. And then like if we didn't find it, throw something. But it should be there because we're reacting to a message. So it's fine. We're also going to go ahead and say message reaction is a message reaction. And we're not going to set that to anything yet. Let's go ahead and import this. So import our message reaction. Make sure you spell message ID properly as well. That'll really help out. So that's good to go. We're also going to go ahead and have a set of message reaction, and this is going to be called reactions with an S, and it's going to be message.get reactions. So just going to do in our setup work here, getting our message, setting up an empty message reaction, and then also getting the reactions from our message. We're going to go ahead and say optional and message reaction current reaction is equal to message.get reactions. Stream. We're going to go ahead and see if there's a reaction by the current user. So we're going to go ahead and say filter, and then we're going to say R, and then R, whoops, go and make sure we do our lambda right, r.get reaction user .get user ID. If I could type user ID, there we go, is equal to user.get user ID. So we're going to go ahead and fetch that. It's only ever one person is allowed to react to a message, or one person's only allowed one reaction to a message. So we're going to go ahead and say find first, find first, and this returns an optional. So we can go ahead and check to see if it even exists. So then what we go and do is say if our current reaction is present, is, I don't know why it's not working. Did I break something? Let's go and bring an optional, I guess. So java.util. So if our current reaction dot is present, so if it exists, we're going to do some work. Otherwise, we'll do some other work. So if it is present, we're going to say message reaction current message reaction, whoops, is equal to our current reaction.get. So go ahead and pull that message reaction out of there. We'll say reactions dot react, or reactions, whoops, is equal to reactions dot stream, and then we're going to go ahead and dot filter. We're going to go ahead and get rid of this current one. So R and R dot get reaction user dot get user ID is not equal to our user dot get user ID. In hindsight, we could have just done, we have the ID of the actual reaction. We could have just done that, but it is what it is. We're going to go ahead and collect this guy, and we're going to go ahead and say collectors dot to set, like so. And then we're going to go ahead and basically filter out the specific current reaction that we do not want in there anymore because it already exists. So now we're going to go ahead and say message reaction repository dot delete. We'll go ahead and delete our current message reaction out of the repository. We don't want it in there for the same message. Basically, we don't want multiple. And then we're going to go say if not, and then current, oops, current message reaction dot get reaction dot equals. And we're going to go ahead and pass in the reaction that we have above. Let me fix this, and let me fix this. So if the reaction is not the same, we're going to go ahead and recreate a new reaction. And I just broke everything, one sec. If the reaction that got sent in is not the same as the one that was already there, we're going to go ahead and create a new one. So we're going to go ahead and say message reaction is equal to new message reaction. And we'll go ahead and pass in the user, which I think we might still need to fetch and I forgot to do, or maybe it's fine. I don't know. I don't see us fetching user in here, so maybe it's fine now. We'll see if it breaks. But we'll have user, we'll have reaction. So go ahead and recreate that. We'll say message reaction is equal to message reaction repository dot save, and we'll go ahead and pass in that message reaction to go ahead and persist that. We'll go ahead and say reactions dot add, and we'll go ahead and say message reaction. So now we go ahead and add it to all of our reactions from that message. So that is if it already exists. Now let's do the logic for it not existing. So this is basically the same as this. So if it doesn't exist, we'll say message reaction is equal to new reaction. We'll go ahead and save it, and we'll go ahead and add it to our reactions list. So let's go ahead and paste that in and just make it look pretty. And then we just need to go ahead and say message.set reactions and go ahead and put this as our reactions, and then go ahead and say message repository.save and go ahead and save that message. And then we can go ahead and return the message. So there we go. So now basically what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and check to see if the message was in there, or we're going to check to see if we had a reaction, this user had a reaction inside the message. Go ahead and grab it, delete it, and then add any new ones that we need to. Otherwise, we'll just go ahead and add a new one or delete the new one if we didn't want to re-add one. That is good to go. Now we can go ahead and continue working here. Let's hop back into our message controller and get that working. So now in our message controller, what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to delete this return statement. We'll go ahead and say message is equal to message service, whoops, dot, and then react to message. We'll pass in the body dot get user. We'll pass in the body, whoops, maybe dot get, and then message. This should probably be message ID. And I thought I changed the message ID, but maybe I didn't. It's probably fine. And then we'll go ahead and say body dot get reaction, as long as it's an ID or a string, not a string. Oh my god, as long as it's an integer, it's fine. And we'll go ahead and return a new message DTO, and then pass in that message we just created. Now here comes the moment of truth. It says everything's compiling successfully. I'm going to go ahead and get it so that we refresh the code, and then I'm going to see if we can make a conversation, make a message, and then reply with multiple people. So let me go ahead and try to restart the code here. So our server is running. So let me go ahead and open up Postman. So let's go ahead and create a conversation. I'm going to make a group conversation with me, Rick, Morty, and Summer. So let's go ahead and send that. Okay, that's good. Again, I'm going to go ahead and just make a quick post by Rick. So it's just going to say message from Rick 1. Go ahead and send that. Okay, so now if I go back to React, now instead of having an entire message, we just have a message ID. We'll go ahead and say 5 here for users. That would be me. The message 1 in reaction. Now, fingers crossed, I didn't typo anything. So I don't want to debug this all morning, but I probably just jinxed myself. Let's go ahead and try to react to a message. And of course, given ID must not be null. Let's see where I broke this at. I think I might have done something slightly wrong because it's saying that the ID inside of our message repository, I believe, is null. It's because I think in the message reaction, we still have this as, let's see here, get message. Oh, I'm in the wrong one. But I think it's because of our get message maybe. Okay, message ID, because it seems like the message ID is not coming back properly. So let's go ahead and fix this as well. Put that as message ID, and let's just make sure that this is coming back right. Make sure we're getting an ID, message ID out of there. So I'll be back in Postman in a second. Now it worked. So I'm thinking that we just had a mess up there. So now if you can see, we have reactions. Now if I go ahead and say user ID 2 and try to make a reaction, what was happening before is whenever we were fetching the message, it wasn't getting all the reactions, but then it would only have 1 reaction inside this list instead of 2. Let me go ahead and see if this is going to work or not. So it came back. We have a new message reaction ID 3. We have one from unknown coder, and then we have one from user ID 2, and it is from Summer. So that is working properly. So that's good to go. We just had a small typo, so that was a pretty easy fix, luckily. So with that being said, what we can go ahead and do is I think I'm going to go ahead and restart the server again, recreate the conversation. That was just a little bit easier to keep track of what's going on. And then what we're going to go ahead and do is hop into the front end and make it so whenever we click on one of our emojis, it actually sends it and then maybe takes it away as well. So let me go ahead and get everything reset and get back on the front end, and we'll get to work here. On the front end, we're going to go ahead and start out instead of our MessageSlice. So the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to come down here below our last interface. I'm going to make a new interface, and this is going to go ahead and be react to message and then payload. So we can go ahead and react to a message. If I could type, that'd be cool. And here we'll have our user and user. We'll go ahead and have our message and message. This one probably doesn't need to be a message anymore, but we already have access to it anyway, so it's fine. Reaction will be a string, and then token will be a string. So that's good. I think we need to go ahead and import our user. So let's go ahead and import that from global interfaces, and we're good to go here. Now with this one, all we need to go ahead and do is make a new async thunk and then kind of set up the reaction to that. So let's go ahead and go underneath our read message. Go ahead and say export const, and then this will be react to message is equal to create async thunk. And then inside here, we'll have our message slash react. We're going to go ahead and have async. And then this will be a payload of type react to message payload. And then we'll have our thunk API. Let's go ahead and set up our arrow function. Here I'll have a try and a catch. So let's go ahead and set that up. Try catch E. And then inside here, go ahead and return, whoopsies, thunk API dot reject with value, and then pass back that E. So that part's good to go. Now we're going to go ahead and say let body equal to, and we'll go ahead and say user is payload, dot user. We'll have our message ID, which will be payload dot message ID. Finally, we have our reaction, which will be payload dot reaction. So we have our body that we're going to go ahead and send. Now we can go ahead and say let res equal to await axios dot post, and this will be to HTTP, make sure I spell it right, / localhost 8000, and then /message / react. Let's go ahead and pass in our body, and we can go ahead and pass in our config. So we'll just have our headers, and then inside of our headers, we'll have our authorization header. So authorization colon backticks and bearer, and then we'll have our $sign curly brace, and then payload dot token. So that part is good to go. Once we get our response back, we'll go ahead and just return res.data, which is going to return back our message that we just updated. So that is simple enough. Notice you can come down and set up our add case, which should be also pretty simple. We're going to go ahead and come down below the last fulfilled. I just kind of like putting them in that order. So we have our read message fulfilled, come down below that one, and we'll set it up here. We'll have our builder add case, and again, we're going to be a little bit lazy here. We're only going to go ahead and deal with fulfilled because that's the only one we really care about. So react to message dot fulfilled, and then we'll have our state and our action, and then inside of here we'll set up our arrow function. We need to go ahead and make sure we have a conversation. We should, but since we set it to possibly undefined, we're going to go ahead and have to check for that. So we're going to say let messages is equal to state dot conversation message dot map, and we need to go ahead and update that message. So message, and go ahead and do this. So say if our message dot message ID is equal to action dot payload dot message ID, then we're going to go ahead and return the action dot payload. We're going to go ahead and replace that that message with the message that we got. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and return the current message. So that's good to go. And let's go ahead and make this a triple equals. All right, so there we have updated our messages. So we're going to say let updated conversation equal to, and then state dot conversation. And we're going to go ahead and say conversation messages colon, and this one, and this should be conversation message colon messages. So we're going to go ahead and update our conversation. Then we're going to say let updated conversations with an S equal to state dot conversations with an S dot map. And we're going to go ahead and map each conversation like so. We're going to do something very similar. So if our conversation dot conversation ID is equal to action.payload.conversation ID, like so. And this is why it's very important that we passed back a message DTO, so we actually had access to this. We can go ahead and return our updated conversation. So we're going to go ahead and update that conversation. Otherwise, we'll just go ahead and return the normal conversation that was already stored inside of our state. So now we've updated the list of our conversations. We have updated our actual conversation. We go and say state is equal to state. And then we'll go ahead and say our conversation is updated, updated conversation. And we'll go ahead and say conversations with an S is updated, if I could type, conversations with an S. And finally, we'll go ahead and return the updated state. And then if for some reason we don't have an active conversation and we sent a reaction somehow, which should never ever be able to happen anyway, we'll go ahead and just return the state. No harm, no foul. Okay, cool. So that's good to go. So now we just need to go ahead and set up some stuff inside of our message container and then make some cascading changes to get everything to work. And then we're going to go ahead and test it out and call it an episode. We don't have enough time to really style the thing that pops up below whenever we create a new reaction. So let's go ahead and hop into our message container and get to work there. So first thing we need to go ahead and do is we're going to update our const logged in here. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this in curly braces and add a token because we need the token to make the request. So now instead of state.loggedin, it's going to be state.user, and that's good to go. We're going to go ahead and add a dispatch. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw it here maybe. I throw them all over the place, but it is what it is. Const dispatch, and this will be an app dispatch equal to use dispatch. We're going to need the use dispatch to be able to send our reaction. So that's good to go. And then down here, we'll go ahead and just set up a new function around here. We're going to go ahead and say const message, reaction is equal to this. And this is going to take an emoji string. And we're going to go ahead and set this up. So if our logged in and our token. So if we have a logged in, if we're token, we'll go ahead and dispatch this. And this is going to be react to, message. And then inside here we need to pass in everything. So we need our user, user, which is logged in. We're going to go ahead and need our message. We need our reaction, which is going to be the emoji that we passed in, and we're going to need our token. So that is good to go. And then the last thing that we want to go ahead and do is we want to go ahead and set our display display React. If I could type and I broke it, terrific. Good job, Ethan. We want to set our display React to false because once we react to the message, we want to go and get rid of that. So that's good to go. Now what we're going to go ahead and do is we need to come down to where we have our React modal. So let's find our React modal, which we're going to have to do some work on this to make this work better. But we're going to get into that in a couple episodes down the road. So now we need to go ahead and add in our message reaction. Now this is going to complain, at least it should complain, because I don't think it actually takes in an emoji string right now. So I don't know why it's not complaining, but I guess it is what it is. But message reaction, let's just make sure I set it up as a function. Yes, cool. So now we need to go into our message react modal and fix this. So now inside of our message react modal, instead of an mouse event, I don't know why it's not complaining. We're going to go ahead and pass in an emoji string. We're going to go ahead and say emoji string void. And then this is going to break a couple other things, but it's fine. So now we need to go ahead and set up a new function in here. So let's come in here. We're going to say const emoji clicked. And this will take in an react.mouse event. Whoops. React.like a type mouse event on an HTML div element. And then here, what we're going to go do is we're going to convert this into a basically a string. So e.drop propagation. And then we're also going to go ahead and say handle click. And we're going to go ahead and say e.current target like a type .id, because the ID is going to be set to the emoji that we're using. And then what we can go ahead and do is we can come down here to our on click, and we can actually pass the emoji clicked instead, and this should fix up this issue. So emoji clicked like so, and save that guy. So now I think there's just like one more thing we needed to do. Then we need to go into our emoji drop down. So down here, and then I don't know if we really need the on or not that part, this part. Here we go. I went to the wrong part. So emoji drop down. And again, we need to go ahead and just say emoji clicked, I believe. Actually, no, this one gives past handle click. A little bit confusing. I should have done this a little bit different, but it is what it is. That is all good to go. I'm just gonna make sure I save everything again. I'm gonna go ahead and refresh our front end and make sure everything looks good. And fingers crossed, we'll be able to send reactions back and forth. The front end is refreshed. We have a message. I tested messages or reading the messages, and I don't know why sometimes the message like will act like it's not read. Like right there, it was read. Sometimes whenever you get the message directly, it won't act like it was like read, but it actually was. This is the bug we need to look into. But I'm in and on private browser because I'm going to go ahead and open up Redux DevTools in a window. That way we can go ahead and kind of see what's going on after the fact. Because right now we have our message, our conversation message. And if you look in here, we have no reactions. So that's where we're at this point. Let's go ahead and we can hover over here. We're going to fix how this is kind of off center. I have some plans to change this, but we're going to go into here. We also have plans to change this in a coming episode, so don't worry about that as well. So how many time for this? Go ahead and send this. So you're not going to see anything now because we don't have any way to actually go down here. We can go and check Redux to make sure this actually got called and actually did something. So let's hop into the Redux. So if we come here, we can see message react fulfilled. We click on this guy. I don't know why it's not updated. Let me go ahead and refresh this or something, because it says fulfilled. I don't know why it's saying that the message isn't showing up or the reaction is not showing up. There we go. It was just being slow. We have our reaction like so that's good to go. In theory, if we go ahead and click on this guy again, it should take the reaction away. So let's check that. So now if we come down to react fulfilled, reactions are empty. And then if we go ahead and come in here, let's go ahead and say laughing, crying, come back into here. We should have a laughing, crying. And then if we immediately change it from laughing, crying to like a sad face, it should go ahead and update it to a sad face, as you can see there. That is everything working. We had to do a pretty big refactor here, but everything is looking pretty good. If you guys did enjoy, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Next episode, we'll go ahead and get it so we can actually see all the stuff, so you don't want to miss that. So as always, guys, if you guys do want to see where we start from absolute scratch, there's a playlist linked on the end card. And this has been Ethan or Uncoder. Hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.